Hello and welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another potluck wrap up. This is where I pull titles that I have read over the previous months from this teapot. I set myself a target of trying to get as many done as I can in 20 minutes and just generally give you a wrap up of what I've been reading recently, what I thought of them, etc. I'm out of breath. I'm out of breath just from explaining to you. I will be honest, the last few wrap ups I've done, I read quite a bit and therefore was wrapping up earlier than at the end of the month. And then I didn't really have a great reading month because of stuff. And then all of a sudden I did have a great reading month, should have wrapped up ages ago. Now I have 3 baskets worth of books to wrap up, and I know that's just not going to happen. Like, if I was to show you all these in the last 3 months. So, sorry if there's like weird continuity there. I need to wrap some up. I'm still going to set myself 20 minutes, but I need to move quickly. I need to get some of these books either back on my shelves or kind of unhauled, because there are a few in here that I didn't enjoy so much and I'm just looking to get rid of them. So if I can wrap them up first, that would be great. So first and foremost, Satisfying. Not my favourite one of all time, but Satisfying. It is exactly 3 o'clock in the afternoon when I record this, so I will go until 20 past. Isn't that? So many in there. And the first one I'm going to wrap up for September is The Last Continent, which I read in July. The Last Continent is the 6th book in the Rincewind series and is the last book that I've read in the Terry Pratchett Rincewind series, because the next one is technically a novella and it doesn't come in the cloth bound. So I'm debating whether I do it as just an audiobook or whether I skip it and get the next one, which is the last one in the Rincewind series. But basically, Rincewind is a terrible wizard. He is not a good wizard. He only knows one spell, and that one spell has caused calamity. In this, he has kind of been thrown into the Last Continent, which is a place further than the far end of the universe, and he needs to find his way back. It very much plays on Australian tropes and stuff, but it's a lot less racist than the one prior, which is Interesting Times, which I found really had a lot of Orientalism and etc. This one really didn't. Whilst there is kind of Terry Pratchett's take on Aboriginal mythology, at no point does it poke fun at it. At no point are Aborigines treated as lesser. It's very much the white colonisers not understanding how society works in this one, which I far greater appreciated. This one is a lot of fun. It was kind of back to its Terry Pratchett stride, which was a relief, because I'd already bought this one when I was reading Interesting Times and was like really concerned about it. So I will continue collecting as and where I can, but I need to find out which other cloth-bound series are available, because not all of them are. And I'd rather do them in the cloth-bound series and have a nice collection, because that's the kind of person that I am. But I gave it 3.5 to 4 stars in the end. It was really good fun. It was good fun. It was a good time, but I don't need to spend too much more time on it because we're doing it quickly. We're doing it quickly. Okay, next. Pizza Girl. This one's one that I've unhauled already, because actually I had someone that I thought would really enjoy it, so I gave my copy to them. Pizza Girl was a really weird one. It was a TBR vet, but it was one of the first books that I bought as a booktuber, and it was one that I was really interested in because it was a mixture of contemporary, sapphic, and kind of mental health rep all in one book. And I thought actually that would be perfect for something like Gothtober, where I could recommend it because it has those 3 things. And it definitely can, and it probably would have worked really well for Gothtober if I'd enjoyed it more. It very much focuses on a young girl who is 18, she is pregnant, and she is mentally very unwell. And she starts fixating on this woman that she delivers pizzas to. And I was kind of hoping like a relationship would form between them, maybe a Thelma and Louise type thing. That didn't really happen. It very much became this woman is just a face, and this young girl is projecting an awful lot of her issues onto this woman, and it very much followed that route and the mental health route that it did a sapphic relationship thing, and it was very tragic. It was very tragic, but it wasn't sad enough to really pull on my heartstrings. So it was on the cusp of being something that I was really going to enjoy, and just kind of missed the mark for me a little bit. I didn't like the way it was all kind of wrapped up in the last few chapters, and it just wasn't doing what I needed it to do. It didn't give what I needed it to give. It was a really interesting mix. I'm glad I read it. It was an interesting book. And if you enjoy contemporaries, if you do enjoy kind of contemporaries that look at mental health, but also kind of how much we can kind of fixate on stuff. It's very high literary fiction. I think that's the thing, is I was expecting it to be a contemporary and it was literary fiction. I'm not a massive fan of literary fiction. I much prefer genre fiction and commercial fiction. I like a good time. And that wasn't really either of those things. So it got 3 stars. It wasn't bad by any stretch. I just didn't enjoy it. So I think it will still be available via Waypoint if you are interested in it, but it's not one that I'm like actively recommending. Okay, next is the Honeymooners. I'm getting all the early ones done. That's nice. I was so pleasantly surprised by the Honeymooners. This was one of the books that I read whilst I was out in Gibraltar for my brother's wedding, which definitely felt like irony that I picked one that had like wedding based theme. But basically in this, the bridesmaid and the best man end up going on the wedding when the bride and groom are struck down with food poisoning. And it's a really interesting one because it is classic enemies to lovers kind of thing. I really just connected to the main character of this. I thought it was really interesting that she was dealing with her own drama and her own feelings quite a lot, but it was still fun and it was still kind of energetic and romantic whilst leaning into those like darker things. Because at one point she thinks she's going to lose her job, or she's applied for a job and she's not sure she's going to get it, and she meets her new boss, and she ends up like getting into more drama with that because of this lie they've told to get onto this honeymoon. Because if anyone finds out that they're not married, they'll get kicked off this holiday, and it was all free and they can't get the money back and stuff like that. So it's very complicated and very convoluted, but I didn't mind that because the writing style of it is very gentle, it's very easy to read, and I devoured this in a day and a half. It was just fun. It was just a really good time. Perfect for summer reading, which is not great when it comes to a September wrap up because you should have picked this up ages ago, but still a good time. I still hate this cover though. I still think this yellow, lovely yellows, this yellow, gross. 5 minutes and she's done 3. That's good odds. That's good odds that I might actually get quite a few of these done. Next is The Mask Falling. It's nice when I get to wrap up a sequel, 1 because it means that I've been keeping up with my series, and 2 because it means that I don't have to spend too much time explaining to you about this book because I don't want to spoil it. This is the 5th book in the series. It didn't make me cry. I really enjoyed Bone Season. Didn't enjoy Mime Order. Really enjoyed Song Rising. This one was okay. I know that a lot of people found it like really dramatic, and maybe it's because people had kind of talked about there being a really dramatic plot twist that it meant that I wasn't as surprised, but I thought it was really interesting to see how begins with C. What's it called? Where they do the magic, but they're in like they control ghosts and stuff. Oh my god, that's gonna do my head in now that I can't remember. Oh god, what are they called? Okay, it slowed me down that I can't remember, and it's now stressing me out. It's not spiritualists. Clairvoyance! Oh my god, that was going to drive me nuts. Okay, so it was really interesting to see how the clairvoyants kind of adapt depending on which city they're in, also depending on where Scion is. But generally, if you haven't read The Bone Season, I would definitely recommend it. It's a really interesting novel it's a dystopian novel set in London and Oxford about a clairvoyant society that is kind of controlled. Clairvoyants are illegal. The main character is a clairvoyant, a particular kind of clairvoyant, which is incredibly rare. So that makes her both very powerful and very dangerous. So it's a really interesting book. This one was not my favourite of them, but I would say I definitely preferred it to Mime Order, which was my least favourite. Bone Season, I think, there was just something magical about the first one that I adored, and I haven't read one yet that has matched how much I enjoyed it, which is fair. Sometimes that happens with sequels. It's by no means a reflection that this is a bad book. It is not a bad book. I will not be unhauling my copies anytime soon, which was a consideration. If I didn't like this one, I was going to unhaul them. Okay, next. Not my type. I don't know where my copy of this is because Lizzie borrowed it and she hasn't given it back. Not my type is a Shibaru romance with disability rep. Main character is in a wheelchair. Love interest is a carpenter who is a rigger. It's romantic. It's not as steamy as I was expecting it to be. Like, it was hot, but it wasn't like straight up porn. It's very sex positive over erotica. It was a very interesting read. Wasn't what I was expecting. I'm not gonna lie, I saw Not My Type and assumed it was gonna be a woman in a wheelchair falling in love with a sailor. That wasn't what it was. That wasn't what it was. Next. It Happened One Summer. This is just the romance wrap up, apparently. I have read things other than romance, but I'm not wrapping them up today. It Happened One Summer is a romance about a sailor. Basically, this is very similar to Schitt's Creek. It's kind of inspired by Schitt's Creek, apparently, about a young socialite living in Hollywood who kind of gets banished to the outer reaches of somewhere by the Pacific Northwest, falling in love with a sailor who goes out and works on a ship where things are dangerous and he could die any minute, and it's very fun. It took me a while to get into it because I really didn't like the main character initially. I really didn't like this persona that she felt she needed to share. I didn't like the way she spoke to people, but seeing how other characters reacted to her and seeing like them warm to her definitely helped me warm to her. It's the first Tessa Bailey book that I've ever read. I will definitely be picking up more books by Tessa Bailey because I really enjoyed the banter. It was steamy, it was fun, and it was, yeah, of the romances that I have up here, this is probably one of my favourites. It was a good time. It was a good time. It was a good time. Just gonna move this. It looked cute, but it doesn't need to stay there. It can move down here. I am actively trying to speed through these because I've just read, there's too many in this basket. The Trials of Morrigan Crow. This one I did as an audiobook, and I'm not going to say too much about it because I think it was a very cute middle grade and I can definitely see why people like it. It just wasn't for me. I thought it was a bit too much whimsy, not enough actual plot. It was very much a case of something different happened in every chapter and not a lot of it I cared about. The plot twist, to me, was pretty obvious. And it just wasn't my favourite. It just wasn't my favourite. It was cute, but it wasn't my favourite. But I also will not be buying myself a paperback. Sometimes if I read an audiobook and really like it, I'll buy a tangible copy. That's not the case for this one. It's cute though. Airheads. Again, I've already unhauled Airheads. Airheads was so weird. And I'm very conscious that I'm going to lose time to this one. But that's fine. Bear with. Airheads is the first in a trilogy by Meg Cabot or Meg Cabot, depending on how you say it. And basically, Nikki is a supermodel. She is renowned. She's kind of like the Gigi Hadid of this world, right? And everyone knows her. Everyone knows everything about her. The main character, who we get like for 50% of the book, is not. She is not well known. She is not that attractive. She's just incredibly intelligent, very caring, very considerate. And unfortunately, they both died at the same time. One of them had their body crushed and one of them had their brain smashed in. The not Nikki's brain, I can't remember her name now, gets put in Nikki's body. And that is because they want to basically maintain Nikki's career, which is worth more than this young girl's life. And the family of the young girl just want to know that their child is still alive by putting her working brain in someone else's body. It's already a lot. There's no resolution to any of this. After that all happens, which is the first 2/3 of the book, we see not Nikki learning to be Nikki and kind of going to these jobs and trying modelling and finding out how hard it is and meeting all these people who treat her like shit, and oh, someone's spying on her, and also Nikki was cheating on her boyfriend with a whole host of other people, and also this main character is in love with 2 other boys as well, so there's like a love triangle there as well. Her best friend works out what's going on, but like there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, and then it just ends. She goes to a Christmas dinner and it just ends. That's it. It's over. And I was like, I don't know what happened there. Where did the plot go? Where's the rest of that story? And like, I get that it's the first part of a trilogy, right? And that it's going to continue. But that is the first time where I've been like, Meg, Miss Cabot, what the fuck? Where's the rest of this story? What happened there? Where is this going? Am I supposed to care about the mystery? Is the mystery, was that just something tacked on? Because I know that Meg Cabot is generally known for her romances, right? Most prominently being The Princess Diaries. But actually, quite a few series of Meg Cabot's is mystery-based, right? You've got the Mediator series, you've got Size 12 Isn't Fat, which, let's not even go into how problematic that trilogy is. Loved it, still problematic. Where was this going? And what is it talking about? Like, what is it judging you on? Because like there was this whole thing about how, you know, she's an airhead because she's this celebrity kind of thing. But Nikki clearly wasn't stupid. She was managing quite a lot. She just wasn't necessarily as smart as this person who's now in her body. It was a whole thing. It was a whole thing. And I didn't understand it. I didn't really get it. Didn't really see the point. it was just really confusing to me. I didn't like it. It got 3 stars. I think it got 2.5 actually. Because it was fine, but it was weird. And I'm going to have to read the next ones, even though I don't really want to. Because I need to know what is happening. Have I ever sounded so confused in a wrap-up? I don't think so. Like, usually I'm pretty good at like, oh, I read this months ago, but I can still generally remember what happened. With that one, I'm like, I read it and I still don't know. I still couldn't tell you. Tilly and the Book Wanderers. Another middle grade I read recently that I really enjoyed. I read this for Middle Earthathon. This was for the prompt Big Patron, or Sauron I think it was, which is the idea that you read a book by one of the biggest publishers, which this is because it's HarperCollins. I preferred this so much to the other middle grades I've been reading recently. There was whimsy, but it was a good kind of whimsy. It was very similar in writing style to Evelyn Jones, which I really appreciated, and I really liked all the bookish references. I have proceeded to buy the next 3 books. That's how excited I am for this one. So I'm probably going to read those in November. This was a lot of fun. It was a very gentle, easy read, and is definitely one that I'm going to be recommending come Christmas time. Because I've still got about 4 minutes left. Witchlings. This is going to break some people's hearts. I know that. I'm aware. Witchlings is a Latinx witchy middle grade. Super cute. Very whimsical. Wasn't my favourite. Gave it 3.5 stars, and it was fine, but it was very similar to Nevermore, very similar to like witchy kind of school setting ones. Another one where something had to happen in every chapter. I really liked the kind of dramatic ending, next start thing. Because like, have you ever read those books where it's like, and it was all fine, and then the next chapter starts with, it was not fine. This one does that, which I always enjoy that. It always tickles me. But this in general just wasn't my favourite. I'm going to be unhauling this. Someone's already claimed it, but it just wasn't. It did not give what I needed it to give again. And I feel like when it comes to middle grades are probably the age group that I am pickiest in, because it's not my go-to age range. I much prefer YA because it's fast-paced. I will settle for an adult. I don't reach for middle grade as often as I probably should, but I really did want to love this one, and I'm really disappointed that I didn't. But it was very cute. It had great rep in it. It had a great main character and cast. The plot was really interesting. Who the bad guys were was not super obvious, which I really appreciated. There was mystery there, there was danger there. It had everything it needed to. I just didn't enjoy it as much, and that's probably more on me than it is on the book itself. Okay, I've probably got time for one more. One, maybe 2 more. Let's see how quick we can be. I've still got 3 fucking baskets worth of books that I need to get through. Oh, thank God. Right, okay. Red Rising 1, 2 and 3. Have I ever burnt through a trilogy so fast? Not in many a moon. I tend to pick and choose when I'm going to pick up series, and it tends to be that I give myself at least a month between each book, just because I like to pick up lots of different things. I do generally like series. I like the fact that with the series you get to enjoy more of what you had in the same without it being like the author is a one-trick pony kind of thing. Red Rising, however, I devoured almost as quickly as I did Game of Thrones. Morningstar, the third one, was my favourite, but that is not to say that the first 2 weren't brilliant. They absolutely were. Red Rising follows a young man named Darrow who is a red, and basically within this society, depending on what colour you are, will depend where you sit in the society. As a red, he is the lowest of the low, and he is treated as such. But he lives under the understanding that he is trying to build a better world, and is trying to kind of help create a habitable place for his society to live in. When he discovers that that is not the case, and that actually there are people living on the surface already and are living far better than he and his family are, he decides to cause a revolution. There are a whole other bunch of reasons why he does this, and the first book is very much a training montage of him learning how to be a gold and how to get up higher in the ranks, and knowing what he knows as a red and how he can like push past all of that. And then these 2 are him bringing down the society. It is brutal. It is violent. It is graphic. It is poignant. The characters are really interesting. I absolutely adored Severo. The psychopaths in this really are psychopaths. You can't trust anyone. You can't guarantee that your favourite character is going to make it out alive. Oh my God. It got me. It got me. And then the second one got me. And then the third one got me. And I don't think any of these books scored lower than 4 stars. It was an epic series, and considering this is sci-fi, it is written very similar to most high fantasies. It's just kind of set in space. It's very similar to Gideon and the Ninth in that way, in where that it's set in space, sci-fi, but reads like a fantasy. So yeah, I loved this series. Top tier, would recommend, everyone should pick it up. Okay, this will be my last one. Although I have basically cleared an entire basket with picking out those three, because I did them as three because I'd read them in sequence. Demon Road. This one was a big disappointment for me. I kind of knew I wasn't going to enjoy this as much as I enjoyed Sculpt Pleasant, which is by the same author, Derek Landy. However, this was so needlessly angsty. This was too similar to American Gods for me. This was a British author talking about a road trip across America, looking at Americanisms, looking at demonology, and just not really committing to either. And I just felt like I didn't really care. The bits that I found interesting were at the start and end of this book. Most of the book in the middle, and it is a solid 500 pages, this one. Yeah, 507 pages. The solid 300 pages just didn't need to be there. There were characters in it that I didn't care about. There were plot points I didn't care about. We don't really learn anything until the end anyway. And I was just generally really disappointed because I really enjoy Derek Landy's style of writing. But I won't be committing to this one because it was just mediocre. And I think when you've got an author that you absolutely trust, like Derek Landy was an auto-buy author for me, but I think actually I'm going to steer clear of Demon Road, which he wrote in the gap between 9 and 10 of Skullduggery. And I much, much prefer Skullduggery. Like, hands down, is a greater series in my opinion. This one was very disappointing overall. But it is what it is. It is what it is. Wasn't my favourite. I don't need to read it again. I can unhaul it now. So that is 20 minutes. These are all the books that I read over the last few months, and I still have 2 baskets full of books that I need to get shot of. I think, even though I don't normally do this, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly tell you about the books that I read that I'm getting rid of, because I just kind of want to get shot of them. I want to clear them from my basket. That's not to say they were bad, I'm just not interested in rereading them. So After Love is a sapphic romance that felt like very much a book in 2 parts. There was too much of the first half and not enough of the second half for me to really hold my interest, so it got 3 stars and I'll be unhauling it. Proud is a collection of short stories that are all about LGBT. I've very much made a list of authors from this that I want to read more of, but because it's a collection, I'm probably not going to reread it. It was very cute, but I'm sure someone else will enjoy it more than I did. I finally finished Midnight Sun, and I'm sure you would love to see my full response to this, but I hated it. I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't a good time. I asked Lizzie so many times, because we were buddy reading it, she was like reading it to me, or we were doing it as an audiobook. I begged her to DNF it, and she refused. So no, I hated it. Turns out I wasn't a massive fan of Edward to begin with, even less of a fan of Edward when I can hear inside his head. He's not a nice person. I hated this. It's going back on Lizzie's shelf. I read The Midnight Library and Reasons to Stay Alive. I will be unhauling both of these, but if you want to know what my thoughts were, there was a vlog where I read these, so you can go and find out there. I enjoyed this one more than I thought I would. I didn't really enjoy this one. They are both TBR vets, so if I remove them, I get to move new books onto my shelf, and that is a priority for me right now. I finally finished the Loyola Homes. Finally finished it. It was good. I don't know how I feel about reading the rest of the series. It was a lot more mature than I was expecting, but it was good. I enjoyed it. I'm probably going to watch the next film. I'm more inclined to continue with the film series than I am the book series. Plus, it was a TBR vet. And then, in a totally devastating turn of events, I will be unhauling Extasia. I hated this. I loved the writing style initially, and actually, the premise of it sounded so good. But the plot twist at the end made me rage. Full on rage. And again, I'll leave the vlog here so you can watch that in full. This was not good. You can't set up nothing and then expect me to care about the payoff in the last chapter. Disappointing. Devastated. Hated it. More furious than anything else. Which is ironic because I will be picking up Furyborn by this author at some point, but no time soon. An additional stack of books that I didn't really wrap up, but I just really want to get rid of. Let me know in the comments down below. Have you read any of these books? Have you read any of them? Would you recommend them? Because these ones, however, better, enjoyed them. Let me know in the comments down below, what was your favourite read from September? Treat yourself to something from Waypoint because it supports me and my content. Make sure you've liked and subscribed, and most importantly, have a nice day.